Okay, so I get this question a lot. In fact, I've gotten it more than a lot in the last year. And it comes down to this. What is the transactional value of silver and gold? Meaning, if we didn't, say, cash in our gold at a bullion dealership and get cash, if we were to do a direct transaction with somebody, what would the value of it be? And I'm always hesitant to give answers to that because, unfortunately, this is sort of a spoiler alert, there really isn't a definitive answer. And you say, okay, well, come on, Tom. Silver has a gold value rate or a dollar value right now. Gold has a dollar value right now. Can't we just use that as a benchmark and go forward? Well, you answered your own question if that's the case. But I'm convinced that that's not going to be relevant. Number one, gold and silver are highly undervalued right now. If evidence is correct, that's going to change at some point. They're going to start to get closer to their par value. So that in and of itself going forward is going to change those relative balances between assets and different things. So saying, that this silver maple here, for example, is, right now they're around $40 retail. So pick something else that's around $40 right now and pair the two together. Might not be a fair estimation of the value of that coin a year from now or 2 years from now. So that's not necessarily going to work. And the other thing I pointed out to people is that values being relative. I use this example a lot. So I use the hacksaw example. How much is a hacksaw? Well, I don't know, $20 at Canadian Tire. So it's worth $20. But wait a minute, that's a hacksaw that somebody needs for cutting plastic pipe or cutting a piece of threaded rod or something, right? How much are you going to pay for something that does that? $20. But if you were locked in a burning building and you were going to die if you couldn't cut the lock to get out, what would you pay for that hacksaw, right? So the situations lend a lot to the relative value of something, right? I mean, if a person is been starving for 3 days, they'll pay a lot more for a hamburger than you will if you just ate lunch. All right, so it's relative to situations, and we can't know what the situations are going to be in the future. So it's very difficult to say what this is going to be worth. So there's that answer, and that's a fair answer in my estimation if you look at it. But there's a number of other factors that are going to be involved here too that go beyond just, hey, can we figure out the dollars? Once you figured out the dollars, then you run into the additional problem of recognizability. I mean, I get a lot of people buying Royal Canadian Mint maples now, and one of the reasons they'll pay 80 cents more for a maple than like a buffalo round, for example, which is also an ounce of silver, perfectly good coin, but people will often pay that extra premium for this maple because they believe it's going to be recognized by somebody that they're going to exchange with. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the majority of people are not silver buyers as it is. So you're going to have the added problem of convincing someone who's never been down that path of the value of this and then persuading them that it's real and that, so on and so forth. People are going to be a little reticent about taking that. And when you get into bigger purchases, like where you need to use gold, there's an ounce of gold, it's an even bigger conundrum because people are going to be very cautious about accepting something that they're not necessarily familiar with. Now, that being said, I read a good book on the Zimbabwe hyperinflation when they went up to the point of printing $100 trillion notes. For those of you who have never seen that, that's pretty interesting. Look that up. Go look up $100 trillion Zimbabwe note and go to images in Google and check it out. It's crazy that they had to actually start printing that level of currency in that country. So we don't know what the values are going to be going forward. We've already seen some of the inflation starting to kick in, and everybody's warning about how it's going to get higher and higher, and we haven't been producing near as much for the last 3 years. So that's another factor. So things are about to get crazy. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back on track with the coin issue. So before I get into that, let me talk more about Zimbabwe. So what happened in Zimbabwe during this time when valuations got really crazy, the average person had to start to learn and think differently and learn to be able to calculate these valuations very very astutely because it was a matter of survival. So this is the same thing that I say to most people today, is that I wouldn't worry so much about what it's going to look like when it comes, if it comes, as I would be concerned, that about other things to prepare. I think people will figure out how to deal with these issues of value when the time presents itself. If you're hungry and you're cold or you need something badly, people have a tendency the mind gets to work on those things a lot harder than if that's not the case. Now, that being said, let me toss you a bone here. This is a Canadian, I think it's a 1961 or something like that, Canadian dollar. Now, these are 80% silver. This used to be our currency of trade. This is a 50-cent piece. And we call these junk silver or pre-67. Now, there's a couple advantages to those. Number one, there's not as much silver in this dollar, obviously, as there is in this Canadian maple. Substantially less silver in that. And there's half that again in this, and the quarters have half of that, and the dimes have 1/10 of what this has. So the 10 dimes has the same silver content as a dollar. 4 quarters has the same silver content. You see the pattern there, folks? It used to be by weight, something that actually means something, not currency, which is just numbers that float up and down indefinitely. These were based on weight. So now the fact that these are an old government coin, they have a date on them which verifies them. They're pretty legit. They got the old king on the back and all the Canada and all the symbolism. Very easy to look up and see. If you were getting into a scenario where the other person was not trusting you on that side of the trade, and you had one of these, you could easily say, look, you can look this up and verify for yourself what this is and how much silver in it, because that information is everywhere online. It's real easy. You can look it up right now. Go ahead and do it. Check it out. Just type in pre-67 silver content for $1, and it's everywhere. So if you were trying to persuade somebody that this was legit and so on and so forth, you would have that at your fingertips. Of course, you'd have it for this too, but there just isn't as much information historically about that as there is about pre-67, or what we call junk silver. And you have the added benefit of smaller increments that go down below an ounce. Like that's probably down to like 1/4 of an ounce, and then you have 1/4 and then a dime for smaller transactions. Nice to be able to get as close to your target transaction amount because most people aren't going to be able to make change for you, which goes back to my other analogy about increments and why to buy different increments when you're buying silver and gold. Like, for example, a lot of people want to buy fractional gold, and fractional gold's great, but silver is a little more substantial, probably more likely to be recognized than gold is. A fractional gold, in my opinion, in a transactional situation, that's not really fractional. I mean, it's a fraction of a pound, but it's not a fraction of an ounce. To me, not as good of a functional piece of currency as a coin is, a silver coin per se. So there's a couple things to think about. I know I'm wandering around a little bit, not giving a definitive answer to this, but as I said in the beginning, there really isn't a definitive answer on values going forward because we really don't know what the landscape's going to look like. I mean, if we have 100, 200% inflation a year like other countries like Argentina and Brazil and Venezuela have had in recent years, then it's difficult for anybody to say at this point what that's going to look like going forward. So I hope that helps a little bit. It helps calm people's concerns about valuations and that going forward. Like I said, everybody's going to have to adapt when they get to that situation, and nobody can know what it's going to look like. So I hope that helps. Hit the notification bell, folks, so you can get more videos like this when they come out. Hit the like button, all the good stuff for YouTube, so the algorithm will share it with more people. And hope that helped a little bit out there, folks. Sorry I don't have a better answer. Have a great day.